And here we are with the Season 13 preseason linebacker tier list. So we're going to run through all of the players that were drafted, signed up for the linebacker position. So we're going to run through everybody here. We're going to try making this video a little quicker than some of the other ones. We always say that. We'll see how that goes. But we'll kind of jump in a little quicker this time. So we will start off. Pluck off G-Men. Where are you ranking G-Men on linebacker tier list?
G-Man. Okay, so we started out with a guy who he's good for the league. He's user capabilities aren't as high as some of the other guys on the list, but he's one of those guys that we love to have in the league. And the more times people like him keep coming back to play, the better off we are. But with that being said, I'm throwing him a little bit of a compliment sandwich here because I think that he's going to go ahead and slide right into our C tier.
C tier. It's not a bad place to start, you know. I mean, it's certainly not the D tier, and I mean, only having the five here, the S tier is kind of a whole other upper echelon. So there's certainly nothing wrong with being B C tier. I think that's where the bulk of the players here really truly fall under. So we'll take another one here. Another player, we discussed him a bit in the previous tier list. Saw him a lot on draft night. Here we are once again with School U, this time at linebacker. So again, we
Um,
don't know a ton about this player, other than his drive, other than his ambition. And what about you? You have any experience with him? You hear any rumors here about School U?
School U, it's likely that he's gonna have to go to school if he wants to move up this list. He's unlikely to school you on defense at this point in
Hmm.
his career. But that's just because he doesn't have as many reps as some of the other guys, and he's one of those guys that you'll really see after this full season whether he's capable of moving up the list or if he is one of those guys that's just going to be a third line guy until he kind of starts figuring things out. But it'd really be kind of doing him a disservice to put him anywhere other than question mark tier. So we'll throw him in there just as a potential pick.
All right, I think that's a good assessment there, given the lack of experience in the league. He mentioned playing as an ECU, so I'm sure he has a few games under his belt. So now that he has a real team to show up with week after week, we'll see how all that turns out for him. And so after that, we go on to the next. We will look at Porkside here at linebacker. I guess you do want something a little on the porkier side at linebacker. I don't know how porky. You still want some speed out there. What are your thoughts on Porkside?
Uh, Jeez, pork side. Quarterbacks are going to take pork side and make a nice brisket out of him.
Mm,
Playing this season,
I
they're gonna,
think that's what it is.
kind of chop him up, throw him on the roast, and let him slow cook for a while. Because if he's calling defense, the other quarterback's going for 2 touchdowns and 300. We're
Ooh,
gonna throw pork side in the D tier.
bold
Um, and,
calls. Throwing pork
and
side, roasting them, cooking them, burnt rinds, just right in the stove at D. Man,
yeah,
Porkside.
so
I hope maybe he can have a good year and really jump up the ratings and prove all the haters wrong. But not off to a good start with the rankings for Porkside.
now, then I know pork, and he's going to be squealing like a pig about that commentary there. But it's only right. Throw him in D tier. He can work his way up. But he's not even in the Discord right now, so maybe he won't see this and get too pissed off. But for everybody else, go ahead and relay the message and let him
In
know that
that
he's got to
case,
get
we
his
should
head
put
out
him
of the
on the
mud.
bottom of this tier too. Kind of disrespectful. Don't even appreciate him the same. Put him down there.
Well, he's not allowed to be in the Discord due to some ulterior motives, but we'll leave that out of this.
I'll put him back in the middle. I'll be unbiased. All right. So after Porkside getting out there, all right, we'll pluck out here Abyss. What do you think about Abyss here at linebacker?
So,
Much more
although
known
Abyss
name.
was S tier quarterback and no longer playing quarterbacks, that might have affected his running back grade. He's been a linebacker season in, season out. Abyss is going to be our first guy slotted into S tier. He's a perennial Pro Bowler, and maybe this season we'll see him call a little bit of defense, which could even add to his defensive accolades. So, yeah, Abyss is just a clear cut, easy S tier.
All right, the first S tier off the board with Abyss. Start to pluck a few more names off. Let's take a look at Lucky. What are your thoughts on Lucky? It's always good to be lucky. Some say it's better to be lucky than good. I think that's the expression. What are your thoughts here on Lucky?
Contrary to the name, I would think in Lucky's situation it'd be better to be good than lucky because it doesn't seem like he gets too lucky as far as playoffs in this league go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Lucky is a solid player. When we were both owners, I kind of like to, assimilate us as one and the same. He's a little bit better of a player, but we were both owners that had to strategize more in order to be competitive because we weren't bringing that initial, guaranteed 2 wins minimum a week line together with one another. So it's tough for Lucky. Let me look at the rest of the list here. I think Lucky's going to be our first guy in B tier.
B tier. All right, a pretty solid placement there for Lucky. Certainly can't be too upset with being in the upper half of this list. And with that, we still got a complete wide open A tier list as we keep going off some names. Let's take a look at Sacrifice. So we have a few with openings all across the board. Every tier is open. What are your assessments here on Sacrifice at linebacker?
Better quarterback than linebacker. He's a good quarterback. He's not a bad linebacker, but I know he gets bounced around on defense a lot. Like he's kind of one of those guys that'll play pretty much anywhere you need him to on defense. So I think that diminishes his overall grading initially. But I'm gonna put Sacrifice in C tier, knowing all too well that he has the potential to be a B tier guy. It's just a matter of if he's able to stick there throughout the whole season, collect stats, or if he has to kind of be malleable and play wherever he's needed.
Gotcha. Understood. With the Sacrifice there in at C to round out the middle of the board, we start to kind of fill out here. Let's look at Warpath. Another pretty famous name here. What are your thoughts on Warpath at position of linebacker?
Yeah, so Warpath is one of he's what I like to say, a 7 out of 10 guy, right? 7 out of 10 as far as offense and defense goes, which means he's consistent. He's going to give you what you want. He's got the potential to be one of the best on any given day. And then some days he'll go out there and throw 4 interceptions. Now on defense, you can't throw interceptions, but you can give up a lot of touchdowns. And I assume his defensive play is eerily similar. He'll either lock you down or he'll let you, just pass all over him. So I'm going to put him in B tier, and we're going to label that the boomer bust tier because I believe him and Lucky have very similar play styles and potential.
All right, so we got Lucky and Warpath is boomer bust. I mean, you see a lot of that. I mean, you look at like someone like the Cowboys defense, for example. Obviously, you got someone like Diggs out there rushing for every pick. Sometimes it helps to make those big plays, especially come playoff time. It usually takes one big play to turn the tide, especially the way momentum is in these new Maddens. You get one big play early, you get one pick six, God forbid. That game is pretty much a wrap. You're getting all those boosts, you're getting all those, stat upgrades, and you're off for a run. So, boom or bust, there's certainly worse things in this league to be. So, next up, we have the Figster. What are your thoughts on Fig at linebacker?
No, I'm not super familiar with Fig's game as a linebacker. I know that this season there's potential he doesn't play linebacker based off of who he plays with. Depending on if he plays with, Orby, if one of them will be a DB or a linebacker. But Fig is he's a versatile guy. He's got great stick skills, and I think he honestly, oddly enough, he's going to be another guy that's in that boomer bust here. Fig can go out there and ball out, but if the quarterback's inside of his head, then he might have a long day. So I'm going to throw Fig right in there as a guy with a lot of stick skill. He's just got to string it all together on one night, and then he'll be one of the harder guys to beat in the league.
So we're throwing Fig back in the boom or bust. Kind of, what are your thoughts on Fig Newtons? I think those might be a little boomer bust for some people. Like, I like Fig Newtons. Some people fucking hate Fig Newtons. What are your thoughts on Fig Newtons?
Newtons? A complete bust to me. Hate him.
Yeah, see,
So
there's something about, like, in my case, I'd be drafting that Fig Newton off the board. You'd be letting it sit there to rot. So, I mean, there's
I probably won't need another Fig Newton as long as I live. So we went on a road trip when I was younger, and it was during the middle of the summer. It was hot in there. It was the old seats, so just everything was going wrong. And I ate some Fig Newtons, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. The texture, the flavor, I don't know.
You gotta
what it
give
was.
another shot, man. Maybe
I
they're
don't know.
like
That's
off brand. Maybe you had some like great value Fig bars or something.
it was the yellow Fig Newtons pack. I mean, giving him another shot to me is kind of like going back to your middle school girlfriend. It's like, was there really ever anything there? You guys were just kind of there because you had to be. Yeah, I probably would. No, my middle school girlfriend's a lesbian now, I think. So
I think
maybe
one
I
or
could
two of
change
mine were.
her. Maybe I could change her, but I won't be able to change the flavor of a fig.
All right, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. So we're on different squads now. All right, let's take a look at the next one up. We have beach mode. What are your thoughts here on beach mode? I always enjoy a nice trip to the beach. Certainly helps calm the nerves, bring the team together. But it's not always good to be in vacation mode. What are your thoughts on beach mode?
Yeah, my understanding of being in beach mode is winding down, get a few drinks in your hand, maybe invite Andy Samberg to the beach for a Corona.
Mm.
So it's really looking like beach mode. You're not going to be too on high alert, and your heart rate's real low. You're just kind of relaxing out there shooting the shit. So I'm going to throw him in D tier for
D
destination vacation.
destination
And
vacation.
he's yeah, if he can get himself out of beach mode, that's great. But if he can't, then he'll be seeing the beaches of Cancun sooner than the rest of the league.
Oof. All right. So kind of rounding out A tier, pretty open. Only one person in S with Abyss here. So let's take a look at Hoochie. With a few
Mm.
lists open here. We're like taking a look at Hoochie. Where do you place Hoochie on this list?
Um, Geez, Hoochie. I think Hoochie is one of the guys that no matter where he plays the game so frequently that he knows all the ins and outs. He's going to be one of the best guys on the defensive side of the ball, best guys on the offensive side of the ball. I'd be surprised if he wasn't telling his defensive coordinator what to call half the time because of how good he is. So I'm going to throw Hoochie. I'm going to stop, dick riding him. I'm going to give my asshole a break and throw him in the S tier.
S tier. So that's the second in the S tier. One opening available there. Kind of building some suspense with a few of the other players on the board on who might be securing that last spot. So equally, I mean, we got a lot here. We got a big A tier gap open here. So maybe we'll start to see some players kind of drop off. I don't know if we have a certain limit on how many we're ranking each of these in. I think most things are probably open. So 3, 1, 1. So yeah, I guess everything's kind of open here. So with that, we start to go down. Given what's here, let's take a look at Blunky on the list at linebacker. Where do you think you're going to be placing linebacker, or sorry, Blunky on this list?
Oh, geez, Blunky. So just knowing what little I do know about Blunky's play style on defense, I know he's a serviceable quarterback, but as far as defense goes, I'm just going to go ahead and equate it to his rapping capabilities. Now, those weren't top tier by any means, but what really surprised me about it is his defense to it, right? Obviously, it takes a lot of nuts to put music out there. It's not going to be good off the rip, but his defense to all of the comments and remarks were never good. So I'm going to assume his defense on the field is not good as well. So I'm going to throw Blunky in G tier for another destination vacation. He's, mastering a different craft and maybe not on the field getting his reps in as a linebacker.
Ooh, all right. Well, given he's got to stand up for my teammate a little bit. I know he's been out there on that field. I know we're going to continue to commit to being out there on that field, and I have no doubts in my mind Blunky's going to raise this list by the time the season is over. So we're going to move on here to this next one. What do you think about sixth Mallard?
Mallard. So I think he's the better defensive player than he is offensive.
Okay.
He's got a good mind for defense and he plays the game the right way. Now the thing with Mallard is I think he's actually going to fall, into the A tier, and that's just because the lack of talent we have on people that signed up strictly for linebacker. He's going to be the first guy slotted into A tier because looking at the rest of the list, almost none of these guys are better than he is. So he's going to find himself, comfortably in A.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a few more. Here we take a look at. Let's look at DJ Rage Quit. As we talked a few times about his, off the field activities, we understand there might be a little bit of a character concern there with some of his reckless driving and endangering the roads. What are your thoughts here with DJ Rage Quit?
Um, we got special guest appearance from the dog here, and I'm just going to see what he's thinking. What are our thoughts here? We think DJ's good for the community, bad for the community. Think he's good at a
He
linebacker.
bailed pretty quick out of that camera frame. I don't think he was feeling it very much. I thought he got a little whiff of that and was like, I'm out of here. I think that might have been
Yeah,
what
I
that
think
was.
so. So we're gonna throw DJ in the questionable tier. And I lied. We're gonna throw him in C tier.
Oh, filling out C tier just like that.
We're gonna throw him in C tier for um cheeky motherfucker.
Yeah. All right, I'll take that. So now we got 6 people left on this board. We got 1 position left at S tier, 2 at A, and 2 at question mark with 1 variable left for the end. So up next we will have Mr. Unknown. What are your thoughts
Uh,
on Mr. Unknown here at linebacker?
I think his name directly coincides with the tier I'm going to throw him in. Mr. Unknown. I really don't know much about Mr. Unknown. I know he's a GM, so he's got to be a good player. He's going to be using those Cowboys defense, so he should find some success there. But as far as I'm concerned, his potential and capabilities are completely unknown. So we're going to throw him in the question mark tier for him to prove himself.
Question mark and unknown with school. Of all the places to find yourself, to know yourself, to learn yourself, it would be right there at School U in the question mark zone. So, another name off the list here. We saw him in the last tier list as well. 713 Jock. Where are you
Yeah,
putting
he's going
713?
to he's going to round out our question mark tier list because I know
Okay.
obviously he's a consistent player, but I'm pretty sure he's one of those guys that also will play anywhere on defense. He's just a team glue guy. So as far as linebacker goes, I'm hoping he gets a full season at his dedicated position so we can really give him a fair evaluation come end of the season. But for now, he's going to be in the question mark tier list. And, we probably don't have to mention this, but at the end of the season, there won't be a question mark tier list anymore because all of our questions will have been answered. That'll just go straight to an F. Okay, so none of these guys in question mark want to remain at the bottom of the board come the end of the season tier list because that means you just stunk it up all season.
Right. All right, so as we're kind of closing out here, we're going to start to see maybe some spoilers depending on when I pick these players. So the next one I'm going to take off the board to judge is user. Where are we putting user with only 2 tiers left in this ranking? Where do you want to place
Um,
user?
I think it's only fair that by way of him not being an S tier, he's going to be an A tier, right? He's one of those guys that the available slots at the end probably help benefit where he was going to be placed initially. So he gets to sit comfortably in A tier, whether or not he deserves it. We'll see throughout the rest of the season. And he's one of the more active and passionate owners, so I assume he's going to be putting in his time on the game as well. So we'll see if he can, really leave his mark.
All right. And so, as most of you are starting to see, obviously, as I mentioned, we have 3 players here left, 2 slots open. Just similar as we tried to do with some of my rankings, I'll do Groff at the end. That way, bias doesn't affect anyone else's tier list, doesn't kick anyone else out, prevent anyone else from getting in a tier they deserve. So now we have 1 spot for the S tier, 1 spot for the A tier. We have Timo, we have ibuprofen. Who is securing the tier S in this linebacker tier list?
Uh, yeah, so tier S is going to go straight. Everybody knows which one this one's going to go to. It's going to be for Mr. Defense himself, wide receiver, linebacker, tale as old as time. There's a few things that have existed for all of time, right? And Timo playing defense and being a mastermind on that side of the ball has always been one of those. So he's going to be our last S tier guy.
Bam. Timo locking in S tier, puts ibuprofen securely in the A tier. Nothing, to be an insult about that. Strictly where their tiers fell, strictly where the order of the rankings took place. So as we fill out all of these positions here, I am left with the final task of placing Meow Groff on this tier list as the only linebacker I've played each season with. Friend that brought me into the league, friend that we consistently show up to these together. I now have to place you somewhere on this list. Given every tier is open, every tier is available, I am confidently placing you in B tier. I think you lock up that B tier. I don't think you would quite expect to be securely in the A tier with some of the other players. Um, as always, we've all played a bit inconsistent with some of our talent, some of our stats we've put out. But, being the D line, I've been bailed out on plays. I've missed a tackle and had you right there behind me. We might have ran a blitz or two where you're able to kind of get in the backfield, make big plays. I've seen you get picks. I've seen you run it back. I've seen you make fumbles. I've seen you call out defensive plays. I'll see a receiver move over to the right side. You'll call out the play before it happens. You'll tell me adjustments to make. I can't think of putting you any lower than B tier here with this linebacker tier list. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would have expected C tier. I think I'm fringe
it
C
was a
tier
little close,
probably,
but
but
like I
listening to you
said,
talk
you made a
more.
lot of call outs. You helped the team a lot. Obviously, you're showing up there. And as we mentioned a few times, personality always plays a little bit. When you know you can get along with the player, You know they're not gonna rage out on you in the middle of a game when you might have, missed a tackle, got a roughing the passer call, messed up a play here and there. He's not gonna sell you out immediately. So I think you deserve that B spot. I do think you are kind of on that verge a little bit, so it's going to be interesting to see where you end up by the end of the season, depending on how you perform and how your stats look. But I know in terms of understanding your potential, I'm confident in that B tier,
Should all take it.
right? All right. So with that being said, similar to the last tier list, are there any certain rankings that jump out to you here?
Yeah, so we didn't touch much on him because he was the last player slotted in there. IB Pro fam. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league. He's a really good defensive player. Could make a few adjustments that would kind of propel him to maybe the same tier, but being well known as an A tier guy. But he's super easy to get along with, and he's a great player. He just kind of keeps to his own, and if he makes a few of those adjustments, he'll shoot up. Some of the other guys I'm looking at, I know User. He kind of fell in the good graces of the tier list gods and was later on, so he might drop throughout the season. The guys I'm most interested in seeing how they perform is obviously Sacrifice and DJ, and then obviously Beach Mode and Blunky probably aren't really D tier guys, but just by way of tier list, we can't have everybody in B or A, so they kind of got the shaft there. So I'm interested to see how this feels the fire for those guys and to kind of see where they end up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job with this tier list. A couple question marks out there that we think we'll start to see some climb, but it's really a question mark as to see as they put more experience, more games in their backlog with School U and Jock maybe not having as many games in the VFL as they quite need for the notoriety for this. But that about sums up the season 13 preseason linebacker tier list. Make sure to keep tuning in for the rest of the preseason tier lists. And as we mentioned, at the end of the year, we will have the postseason tier lists where we go over the final results and see where everyone rose, where everyone fell, and how everyone believes they did at the end. So, any other final announcements, dates to remind anyone about? Anything else you have left to say?
No, not really. Just obviously know that these are mostly for fun. We're going to be trolling a few of you guys. A few of you guys are going to be slotted where you rightfully are, and just due to the format of us only allowing 3 in each tier, unless there's an overflow, some people are going to be higher or lower than they should be. But that just creates a little bit of flexibility in allowing players to kind of get the talk of the town going, be able to prove themselves, kind of light a fire under your ass before the season starts. So by no way are these, the 100% legit fucking the most tier list of all time, but they are a good gauge to see where roughly you are and, give you an opportunity to prove yourself or, prove to others that you belong in the tier that you were put in.
All right. And with that, we sum up and come to an end on the tier list, and we hope you tune in to the next one. Thank you.